Chad, good to see you.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I am with Chad Nikazy, who's the Senior Vice President of Business Development and Sales for Provisions Group. Chad, it's been a really interesting, hopefully once in a lifetime year in 2020. And as I've talked to a lot of different folks, from a sales perspective, how have you led your organization this year, and what have the pivots looked like, and how have you continued to make those decisions through that process?
Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, and that's February rolled around, and we all found out we were going to have to make some changes and kind of pivot either our business models or certainly how we were kind of running our business. And so the first thing that crossed my mind is how do I take care of my own people, right? Because everybody was scared at the beginning of this thing, and learning how to maintain community within our own company was a big deal to us, because Provisions Group is a lifestyle company, right? Culture is everything to us. You know, we sit in the old original downtown Franklin firehouse, neat space and sort of a crew that kind of matches the vibe. So a lot of hanging out and a lot of buddying around, and so when we all went home, that was a major concern for me. We had the ability to work, with flexibility prior to that. So you could work remote if you wanted to, but most people chose to come in. If that tells you anything about our organization. So right out of the gate, again, for me, it was, there's a big cultural part of my job. In some ways, I'm one of the cultural leaders of the organization, mostly because I come up with dumb ideas for things to do, right? Like, let's have a party and, have a cornhole tournament. I'm the one responsible for coming up with that kind of stuff, in addition to leading the sales organization. So immediately we set about having a lot of daily stand-ups virtually like this. Now that's changed over time, but it became more important for us to have those daily stand-ups virtually with our smaller teams. You can call them scrums if you want, but those were always on our calendar. And so sales and account management team every day at 9 a.m. pre-pandemic, it was on all of our calendars. But often we would find a reason not to have that, or there would be absences or whatever. But I'm happy to say, I wish we hadn't had to do it. 8 months or whatever it is we are into this, we've had that meeting every single day at 9 a.m. Almost with 100% attendance, unless something, major is going on. So that was the big thing for us first, was like, how do we protect our own culture? And then let's figure out how to pivot the business to meet our customer needs.
As you've gotten into Q4, looking backwards of what you've learned and through those things, how are you addressing Q4 going into the holidays, trying to put a bow around this year? What are you guys doing right now in that perspective?
Yeah. So fortunately, we've been lucky or fortunate or whatever the case may be to have a strong year. And I recognize we're not, amongst the majority in that. It's been a hard year for a lot of people, but Provisions Group, because we're so diverse in the things we do, it's not exactly business as usual. We've had to make a lot of changes, but we've done pretty well. So the big things for us was recognizing that other companies and certainly individuals in Nashville and beyond were struggling. It is a hard time for a lot of organizations. And a big thing that I learned this year, and we learned organizationally, is there are a lot of good people in our community. And people in Nashville and across the globe can band together and kind of get through this. That was something that we found out early on is, clients and along the way, they were telling us and sharing with us what they were doing to be part of the community. And then we were able to make that same sort of give back, as we had a few customers who were struggling and would come to us and say, hey, we're having a hard time. Like, I know we have obligations to you guys, but we're struggling right now. And luckily I work for leadership at Provisions and get to play a hand in that, where we were able to say, you know what, we get it. Like let's put everything on hold, and when we get through this thing together, let's all come back and get back to business as usual. But right now we recognize that is not the case. So that's kind of how we got through it, was treating our customers the way that we wanted to be treated, and then also treating individuals the way we wanted to be treated, because there's a couple of things we do at Provisions. One is the consulting services side of our business, and that's application development, data and analytics, cloud technologies, and things like this. So we have in-house engineers and architects who do those things. The other side is staffing and recruiting. And staffing and recruiting is where our company was born, and really how we made the pivot into consulting services. And so we still do both. And so daily, people at our organization are talking to individuals who have been a part of a reduction in force or part of a furlough. And that was sobering for us, and maybe something a lot of companies didn't get to see, because we were talking to the people every single day on the staffing side of our business who were impacted by the pandemic and COVID. So, having that opportunity to serve those people has been a blessing for us through this. We've gotten people a lot of jobs. We brought a lot of those people in to help us with some consulting projects. So that's, looking into Q4, it's more of the same for us, because our business really didn't take a major impact, but we were better able to serve people who had been impacted by the pandemic.
As we wrap up, Q4 leads into Q1, and a lot of 2021 planning is going on, which may be different right now than it's ever been, because of Q4 2019 planning all got thrown out with the bathwater come February, March timeframe of this year. How are you guys looking at 2021 and doing prep for that?
It's been a challenge, right? Because as we are planning growth for our organization, we're planning a couple of things in parallel, right? So one track is pandemic magically goes away, and we continue growth trajectory that we've been on for a number of years. And what does that look like? Or we have pandemic hangs around through the winter, and we're talking about a vaccine in the spring. What does that look like? And so it's been a challenging planning season for our leadership team, because we're planning two paths and hoping for the best, but being smart and having a plan B in case this thing hangs around and we're all still struggling into the spring.
That's great advice. Chad, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for jumping on and sharing some wisdom.
You got it.
All right. Have a great one.
Bye-bye.